well, they knew everything was shifting to CG, which was fine with us. We loved CG. We were using it in all the films. We didn't mind going. I was developing one film called My Peoples that never got made. And it was sort of a hybrid. It had 2D and CG characters together, but there were two very different kinds of characters in the story, so sort of justified using two different mediums. They closed the studio here in 2004. So the studio here ran for 15 years, from the day it opened to the day it closed, about 15 years. And it was a great studio. It was an amazing studio.
And then from then you went independent?
From then I've just been sort of independent contractor, and I've just worked on various movies here and there and helping people with scripts and things like that.
And you've helped with Full Sail as well, is that so?
Yeah, I was actually at Full Sail a couple of years after Disney closed, and I can say I taught here, but I didn't really very well, but I helped them develop the animation pre-production class for the bachelor's degree program.
Mm-hmm.
So I helped sort of design the syllabus for that and sort of left that behind. I'm sure it's changed radically since then, but so yeah, it was my time at Full Sail, so I became acquainted with the campus, and I've been on the advisory board at Full Sail. I was last November, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was November. And then I couldn't make this last one, but maybe the next one I might do. I don't know. So I sometimes I do stuff with them.
Yeah. So among the many works, you've done Walking with Dinosaurs, you've done all kinds of stuff since then.
Arthur Christmas.
Arthur Christmas, right?
Fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
But then also through different connections, you found out about Cru, and we're the campus ministry of Cru, the college group on campus, but they do a lot of other things, including something called the Jesus Film,
yes.
Which has been shown in every country in the world in over 1,200 languages. And they approached you about doing an animated, a Japanese animation film from that, using some of the...
Well, I really lobbied them in some ways. My good friend Irv Placius is here, and he produced this film, really. I think he's the producer of it. He might say other people helped, but I met Irv, and I met a guy named Jim Green, who's the president of the Jesus Film for many years, shortly after Disney closed its doors here, and I said, I love doing that Tempter's Voice, that film about the life of Jesus, because I am sort of a fanboy of Jesus. I really am, because I think he's sort of a super rebel character and a super cool guy that was, sort of bigger than just being a person. So it's sort of like, I'm fascinated with him as a person even, or just as dare I say, but even as a character in stories, and the stories he was involved in, the stories he told, and everything else, it just fascinates me to no end. And of course, more songs have probably been written about him than anybody, more symphonies, more movies have probably been made based on biblical stuff than anything else, more books have probably been written and everything else. And so it's like, as an artist, it's like, I like exploring the subject matter of Jesus Christ and sort of what his life might have been like and things like that. So I'm always looking for ways to maybe, as a filmmaker, to say, well, when I read this, here's what I see in this story, and how can I get that out? And so it's like maybe not putting your artistic twist on it, but trying to show a story that people aren't going to just open up a book and read to see it. Mm-hmm. So, do you want me to tell you a little bit about this project and how it came about?
Sure.
I don't know what if we're running out of time or whatever, but so after Disney, I met a few people who worked at, which is now called Cru, and the Jesus Film Project, which is still part of Cru. And I said, what would be really cool? I said, because if you made an anime film about the life of Jesus, and or even start with a manga and just do like some really cool artwork, and then maybe make a film. And I said, what you could do is you could use, because they have already translated this Jesus Film, which is an old movie. It's made 35 years ago or something like that. But it's a pretty good film about the life of Jesus. But they've translated this movie into over 1,000 languages, correct?
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, if you could use the dialogue from that, re-edit it, make it, repaste it, and of course re-storyboard it and re-envision the whole thing, but use lines from that film, then it can be translated immediately to thousands of languages. So the film you're about to see, it's a short animated film. It's like 8 minutes.
9, I think. Yeah.
So yeah, it's not that short. We have a version that we just cut together a year or so ago. It's about a 4-minute version of the same story, but this is the full 8-minute version. But I wanted this film to be an anime film, and I didn't want it to be an American director aping anime or trying to do something that looked like Japanese anime. I said, this has to be a Japanese film. I said, it's got to be a Japanese film about Jesus. Well, you know, a lot of people, if you're from Japan or if you've lived in that culture, or if you've visited there, you know that Christianity is not a big seller in Japan. It's just not. Maybe 2% of the entire population are Christians, which is understandable. But so they would never, you know, naturally they wouldn't sort of gravitate toward the subject matter. So through various connections and producers, we crew engaged a studio called Studio 4C in Tokyo. They're a great anime studio, fantastic artists. And we had storyboarded it here, and we had sort of cut it together, and Herb had a lot to do with editing it and producing the work that was done on it. And I was in England at the time working for Aardman on Arthur Christmas, and I would just work on it at night, you know, when I was finished with work, and just sort of volunteered my time because it was a story I really wanted to tell. What I wanted to tell was the crucifixion from the point of view of one of the men hanging on the cross next to Jesus. So it wasn't Jesus' point of view through this story. It was one of these other guys that was executed with him on the same day. And, you know, no matter what you believe about Jesus, it is very historically factual that he and 2 other guys were executed by the Romans on a certain day in history. And so this tells the story of the guy, one of the guys who was, one of the thieves who was executed with him. And it just starts off with, in the morning, with in the guy's cell. He's being, you know, in the Roman prison where he's being held. So,
Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool. Thanks.